Hey everyone out there that owns a T15. If you came to this video, you're probably having troubles with it because let me tell you, this thing is beyond complicated. It can have so many issues with it just to get it to shoot right. I'm here to try and explain and help out a couple people that might be having some of these issues. Some of these issues that I've come across, they weren't even online or on a wiki to try and fix them. So I wanted to try and share all this with all you guys. Now, the first issue I would find in having, say, your paintballs getting shot or broke through your gun is, say, your springs are too weak. If you keep these things wound up, and especially whenever you're storing them, the springs will tend to weaken a lot faster, and they'll break not necessarily in half, but they won't eject all the ammo out the top of it. So what you'll end up seeing in this situation is whenever you're shooting in the middle of a game, you'll shoot, say you have 19 in your magazine, you'll shoot around 14, and then by the time you get to your third to last bullet, it'll start to chop them because it doesn't have enough spring power to load it up into your gun. So you might want to try and replace your springs. It's really easy. Just buy the springs off of A&S Gear or some other place that offers them for the T15 magazines. One of the other issues that I found is the detents right here, the little plastic detents in your barrel or adapter. They can get worn down, and the reason why they can get worn down is because of the piston inside of your gun. It'll smash them down repeatedly, and if you leave the piston in your gun unpressurized by the spring, it'll typically mat down your detents and cause them to weaken faster, which will cause you to double feed, and then also on top of double feeding, you have a higher chance of chopping paint. One of the other things that I found, which I don't know if this is very common in a lot of T15 owners, but this button right here, this releases your spring. And a lot of times what I'd see is whenever this is put into your T15, it won't fully push down this button, which will cause it to, whenever you first slam it into your gun, it'll feed the first two bullets, but then, like, say, the third bullet or fourth bullet, it will chop them in half because the spring is no longer released and it's no longer feeding the paintballs into your gun, which causes it to just stay right about halfway there when the piston chops it in half. Which that's one of the issues that I've come across, and the best way I found out to fix that problem is to take JB Weld. I take the mixed JB Weld, and I'd put a little dot on this receiver end here. What this will do is it will cause it to push this button down just a little bit further, causing it to where whenever you slam this up into there, it's gonna keep the spring pushed down, and it'll let all the ammo flow freely. Now, the one thing that I found that was wrong with my gun that I couldn't find anywhere else, I looked everywhere to try and get this fixed, and I couldn't find a solution anywhere, is whenever I would shoot my gun, I mean, this was completely random, it would chop a paintball, say like the fourth bullet, the sixth bullet. It didn't really matter. It was all random. It could have even been the first bullet. And what I found was these paintballs, the first strike rounds, they have a very little tab at the very top, and it sticks out just barely. And this little tab, it sticks out just enough to where it can actually catch itself onto this barrel right there. And what I've come across is that if the receiving end right here isn't correctly lined up with your magazine, it'll end up catching on this lip right here. And I've tried so many things, tried to figure it out why it was catching on it. I couldn't really come up with a clear answer on that. But the solution that I found, which I'm not having any more breaks now, and I'm not having it get caught on this lip anymore, and it's feeding just fine now. But what I found to be the best solution is to file that down right at the very tip of that, or to take sandpaper. Yeah, you could get a little chainsaw sharpener file and try and file that down. Or you could use, say, any type of sandpaper that you come across and try and put that at a little bit more of a bevel rather than a flat 90. And your paintballs won't or shouldn't catch on that little lip. That's the one thing that I haven't found anywhere online to solve. And I hope if anyone's having the same problem as me, that helps them. If it's still catching, I probably sand it down a little bit more, or try and make it as smooth as possible, but to where there's not any edges that it can catch on. And the last thing I found is that there's a bolt on top of here, which some people might not know this. This bolt right here, that pushes down that little ball right there. And for those of you who don't know what that does, that is what this adapter slides into. Slides into it right there, and it clicks into those two spots. Well, if that bolt isn't tightened down all the way, what will end up happening is your barrel will have a little bit of freeway. It might wiggle back and forth inside of the receiving end. And if the barrel isn't flush or tight to this black part right here, if it's not tight to this, it can also cause the first strike bullets to get jammed or not feed properly into the gun. So if that's might be one of your issues, or you didn't know that that could have been one of the problems, make sure you tighten down the bolt up here and before you put your barrel inside of it. And with that, I believe if you have done all these things, you shouldn't be running into more problems. I mean, of course, with the T15 or any paintball gun that's complex like it, you could have hundreds of more problems, and you have to figure it out yourself. For me, I had to figure out a lot of this by myself. Some of this stuff I found online, some of this stuff I just came across by experimenting. And it's pretty hard, but it's a very good gun. I mean, for the amount of problems that it has, I don't know if it's necessarily worth it, but in the end, I love the accuracy that this gun gives you. If it shoots properly, no breaks, just wonderfully, I mean, it's completely worth the buy. This is what I've found to be the most struggling part with this gun. It's just trying to get it to feed these dang first strike rounds properly. And to think that a little lip like this could cause that big of an issue. Yeah. Well, I hope this helped you guys. If it didn't, please leave a comment asking about what your problems are, or if you ran into any other problems, I ask that you please leave a comment on what those problems were, and if you knew how to fix them, how did you do it? This in. See ya.